Ladies, let me help you out right here. Stop sending a man these tests if you want peace in your relationship. A real man doesn't need to be tested like he's in school. Love ain't a pop quiz. Listen, ladies, jealousy isn't love, though many people confuse the two. It's common to hear someone say, if he's jealous, that means he cares. But in reality, jealousy is not proof of affection. It's proof of insecurity. Love is about trust, freedom, and mutual respect. When you deliberately stir up jealousy to test someone, what you're really doing is planting seeds of doubt in a relationship that should be built on confidence and honesty. A healthy relationship thrives when both people feel secure enough to be themselves without having to look over their shoulders. If you're constantly pushing buttons to see how far you can go before your partner reacts, you're not creating love. You're creating a game. And games lead to winners and losers, not teammates. When you love someone, you don't put them in positions where they have to defend their worth or prove their commitment through drama. Jealousy often comes from fear, the fear of losing someone, the fear of not being good enough, or the fear of being replaced. But love doesn't operate out of fear. Love operates out of trust. If you trust a man, you don't need to check his phone, measure his reactions, or parade other people in front of him to see how he responds. Trust means believing in his loyalty without demanding constant reassurance through jealousy triggers. When you use jealousy as a tool, you might think you're testing his love, but what you're really doing is weakening his trust in you. Imagine this. If you talk to another guy just to see how jealous your man gets, he may not see it as a test. He may see it as betrayal. What you framed as just checking might feel to him like disloyalty. And even if he does react and show you he's upset, what have you really gained? You didn't get love, you got a reaction. A reaction fades, but the damage from distrust lingers. Love is not proven by how angry or jealous someone gets. It's proven by consistency. A man who shows up for you, respects you, and invests in you every day is displaying love far stronger than a man who gets upset over another guy. True love doesn't need to be tested because it naturally shows itself in action. A person who loves you won't need tricks to prove it. You'll feel it in how they treat you. Jealousy also creates unnecessary tension. It sparks arguments, builds resentment, and can even push a good man away. Nobody wants to live in a constant trial where their emotions are always being measured. A man who is genuinely interested in building a future with you might start to feel like he can't trust your intentions if you're always trying to trap him in jealousy games. He may begin to ask himself if you value the relationship or just the drama that comes with it. On the other hand, when you choose trust over jealousy, you create space for growth. You allow him to feel safe, respected, and secure enough to love you freely without the pressure of constant testing. That's when love deepens, when both partners can be vulnerable without the fear of being tricked or tested. A secure love doesn't need jealousy to keep it alive. It needs honesty, loyalty, and genuine care. At the end of the day, jealousy is not a love language. It's a warning sign. If you constantly feel the need to make someone jealous, then either you don't trust them or you don't trust yourself. Love is never about control or manipulation. It's about freedom and faith in one another. When you remove jealousy from the equation, what's left is something stronger, real love, built on trust that doesn't need testing. Ignoring is manipulation, though some people disguise it as just needing space or wanting attention. There's a difference between genuinely taking time for yourself and deliberately ignoring someone to test how much they care. When you choose to ignore a man's calls or messages, not because you're busy, but because you want to see if he'll chase you harder, you're not strengthening the relationship, you're weakening the trust. Silence used as a weapon is not communication, it's control. In a healthy relationship, communication is oxygen. It keeps everything alive and flowing. When you cut it off intentionally, you suffocate the connection. Ignoring a man's attempts to reach you just to measure how desperate he is creates confusion and frustration. He doesn't see it as a playful test. He sees it as rejection. Over time, repeated rejection, whether real or staged, starts to erode his desire to keep reaching out. Nobody wants to feel like they're begging for attention. in a relationship that's supposed to be built on love. This kind of manipulation often comes from insecurity. Maybe you want reassurance that you matter, or you're afraid he's taking you for granted. But ignoring him doesn't bring reassurance. It creates distance. If you feel unsure, the solution isn't to disappear and hope he proves his love by blowing up your phone. The solution is to talk, to express what you need, to say, I feel like I'm not being prioritized right now. That's honesty. Ignoring is avoidance dressed up as strategy. Another problem with using silence as a test is that it teaches the wrong lesson. You might think you're proving whether he cares enough to fight for you, but what you're really teaching him is that communication with you isn't safe or reliable. He'll start to wonder if every unanswered text means you're upset, if every call that goes to voicemail is a punishment. That creates anxiety, not intimacy. Instead of feeling drawn closer to you, he may start pulling away to protect himself from the constant guessing game. Imagine how it feels from his perspective. He reaches out and you don't respond. He calls and you let it ring. At first, he might try harder, but after a while, that effort turns into exhaustion. He starts thinking, why am I the only one trying here? That's how distance grows, not because love disappeared, but because manipulation poisoned the space where trust should have been. Ignoring also blocks solutions. If there's a real issue, staying silent delays progress. Problems don't vanish because you avoid talking about them. They multiply. Silence builds walls where bridges should be. Instead of working through challenges together, you end up sitting on opposite sides, frustrated and misunderstood. Love can't survive in that environment. True strength in a relationship comes from clarity. If you're upset, say so. If you need space, explain it. If you feel neglected, express it. A man who loves you would rather face the truth than play mind games. And a woman who values herself won't settle for attention earned through manipulation. She'll want genuine care, freely given. Ignoring someone to test their devotion is like dimming the lights in a room to see if the bulb is strong. The darkness doesn't prove anything except that you're willing to keep both of you in the dark instead of simply flipping the switch. Light comes from honesty, not silence. At the end of the day, ignoring may feel powerful in the moment, but it chips away at the very foundation of the relationship. Love isn't about keeping score. It's about keeping connection. And connection thrives on openness. When you choose communication over manipulation, you don't have to wonder if he cares. You will already know because you built a bond that doesn't need to be tested with silence. Loyalty shouldn't be a trap, but too often people turn it into one. A loyal relationship is built on freedom, not pressure. And when you try to test someone's loyalty with impossible or unfair scenarios, you're setting them up for failure before they even have a chance to prove their heart. Real loyalty isn't discovered by forcing a man to choose between people he loves. It's revealed through consistent actions day in and day out. One of the most common mistakes is asking questions that are designed to create conflict. Like if your mother and I were both in danger, who would you say first? Or if your best friend needed you at the same time I did, who would you go to? These aren't loyalty checks. They're traps. They place a man in a position where no matter what he says, somebody loses. That's not fair because love isn't a competition. A man can deeply care for his partner and still honor his family, his friends, or his responsibilities. Expecting him to choose proves nothing about loyalty. It only shows how insecurity can twist love into a battle. True loyalty reveals itself without being forced. It shows up in how someone protects your name when you're not around, in how they prioritize your well-being, and in how they keep showing up when things aren't easy. Loyalty is steady, quiet, and strong. It doesn't need a spotlight or a stage test because it naturally shines through real life challenges. When bills are tough, when mistakes happen, when health is shaken, or when life gets heavy, that's when loyalty speaks loudest. Not in an imaginary scenario, but in the real storms that test love in ways no words can. The danger of loyalty traps is that they breed resentment. If a man feels like he has to constantly prove himself in games he can't win, eventually he'll grow tired. He may start to feel like nothing he does is ever enough because the goalposts keep moving. A man in that position might withdraw emotionally, not because he isn't loyal, but because he's exhausted from always having to defend his heart instead of simply living in love. What began as an attempt to feel secure can ironically push away the very security you wanted. Another truth is that loyalty can't be demanded. It has to be chosen. You cannot manipulate or pressure someone into being loyal to you. If they stay out of fear, control, or guilt, that isn't loyalty, it's captivity. Real loyalty is voluntary. It comes from love, respect, and commitment, not from tests or traps. When a man chooses you every day, when he invests in your growth and stands by you without being forced, that's loyalty in its purest form. It's also important to recognize that loyalty doesn't mean isolation. A loyal man doesn't cut off his family or friends to prove his devotion to you, just as a loyal woman doesn't abandon her loved ones to show her partner she cares. Healthy loyalty is inclusive. It makes room for all the important relationships in life while still holding the romantic bond as sacred. A trap demands exclusivity that suffocates, while real loyalty balances love with freedom. When you trust loyalty, you don't need traps. You don't need to ask, would you choose me over them? Because you already know where you stand. His everyday actions tell you the answer. He calls when he says he will. He shows up when he promises, and he stands by you even when things are inconvenient. That's how loyalty proves itself. Not through pressure, but through consistency. At the end of the day, loyalty shouldn't feel like a test you're forcing someone to take. It should feel like a safe place, a partnership where both people know they can depend on each other no matter what. Traps create fear. Loyalty creates trust. And when you stop trying to corner someone into proving themselves, you'll see that the proof was already there and how they loved you without being asked. Love isn't about money, though many people mistake financial gestures for genuine affection. It's easy to assume that the size of someone's wallet reflects the size of their heart, but real love can't be measured in dollar signs. Money can buy gifts, dinners, and vacations, but it cannot buy loyalty, respect, or emotional security. When you test a man's love by what he can purchase for you, you reduce the relationship to a transaction rather than a connection. And if love is built on transactions, it will collapse the moment the money slows down. Genuine love is about intention, not expense. A man might not be able to buy you the most expensive jewelry, but he may sacrifice his own needs just to make sure you're comfortable. He may not take you on luxury trips, but he may work hard to provide stability for your future together. That sacrifice, that effort, that willingness to give, even when it stretches him, that's where love lives. If the only time you feel valued is when money is spent, then what you're receiving isn't love, it's payment. Some people use money as a test, asking for unnecessary things just to see if a man will provide. But here's the truth. A man's willingness to go broke to keep you happy doesn't prove his devotion. It may only prove his desperation to keep up with your demands. Over time, that kind of pressure can breed resentment. A good man doesn't want to feel like an ATM, constantly being withdrawn from without being emotionally deposited into. He wants to know that his love is accepted in all the ways he gives it, not just when it comes in the form of cash. There are countless relationships where people had money but no peace. They lived in big houses filled with silence, rode in nice cars but drove past each other emotionally. The truth is, money can cover expenses, but it cannot cover emptiness. On the other hand, there are couples with modest means who thrive because they've built their relationship on laughter, trust, and partnership. Their wealth comes from emotional richness, not financial status. That's why love isn't about money. It's about how deeply two people are willing to show up for each other regardless of circumstances. This doesn't mean money doesn't matter at all. Of course, financial responsibility plays a role in building a life together. Bills have to be paid. Goals require planning. And stability is important, but money should be a tool for building, not the foundation of love itself. If a man works hard, provides what he can, and invests effort in making a life with you, that's love in action. It may not always look flashy, but it's steady and real. When love is genuine, even small gestures become priceless. A handwritten note, a meal cooked after a long day, a thoughtful act that shows he was paying attention to your needs. These moments reveal the heart more than any diamond ring ever could. Because love isn't about how much was spent. It's about how much was felt. If you ever doubt this, ask yourself, would you still feel cherished if the money disappeared tomorrow? If the answer is no, then what you have isn't love. It's dependency disguised as romance. Real love is proven in sacrifice, in consistency, in effort. It's the man who shows up even when he's tired, the one who listens when he doesn't have all the answers, the one who supports your dreams even if he's still chasing his own. That type of devotion can't be bought, and it can't be tested with price tags. When you build a relationship on trust, respect, and shared purpose, money becomes a resource, not a scoreboard. At the end of the day, love is about presence, not presence. Money can enhance life, but it cannot replace the security of knowing someone truly has your back. The richest love stories aren't written in luxury. They're written in loyalty. When you recognize that, you'll stop testing a man's love with money and start valuing the priceless ways he proves it every single day. Silence kills communication. And when communication dies, the relationship slowly follows. Many people believe that staying quiet when they're upset will somehow teach their partner a lesson or force them to figure out what's wrong. But here's the truth. No one can read your mind. Expecting a man to decode your silence is like expecting him to solve a puzzle without giving him the pieces. Instead of bringing clarity, silence brings confusion. Instead of creating closeness, it builds walls. When something bothers you and you choose not to speak, you might think you're avoiding conflict, but in reality, you're only postponing it. The unspoken words don't disappear. They pile up like bricks, and eventually those bricks become a wall that separates you from the person you love. Silence doesn't erase problems. It buries them. And buried problems have a way of resurfacing with twice the force later on. What could have been solved with an honest 5-minute conversation can turn into resentment that lasts for months. Some people use silence as a weapon. They shut down, refuse to respond, and leave their partner guessing. This silent treatment is often seen as punishment, but it's actually manipulation. It says, I'll withhold my voice until you chase me enough or hurt enough to pay attention. That might work temporarily, but over time it destroys trust, because eventually the other person doesn't see your silence as a need for love. They see it as rejection. And nobody wants to feel constantly rejected in a relationship that's supposed to be a safe place. Communication is the heartbeat of intimacy. It's how you understand each other, how you resolve issues, and how you remind each other that you're on the same team. Silence, when misused, disrupts that heartbeat. Imagine two people trying to dance together, but one stops moving altogether. The flow is broken. The rhythm is gone. That's what silence does to love. It interrupts the dance of connection. Now, there is a difference between silence for healing and silence for manipulation. Sometimes people do need a little space to calm down and gather their thoughts, and that's healthy. Taking time to breathe before speaking prevents saying things in anger that you might regret. But that kind of silence has a purpose. It's temporary, and it leads back to communication. Destructive silence, on the other hand, is indefinite. It's not about creating understanding. It's about creating distance. And that kind of silence is dangerous. A man who genuinely loves you doesn't want to be kept in the dark. He wants to know what you feel, even if it's uncomfortable. He would rather face the truth than guess at your emotions. And you deserve the same in return. Healthy love isn't about making each other guess. It's about making each other safe enough to be honest. The courage to say, I'm hurt, or I feel overlooked, or I need more support is what strengthens a bond. Because when two people can talk openly, they can fix problems together instead of letting silence tear them apart. The irony is that silence is often used to avoid pain, but it creates more pain in the long run. It leads to misunderstandings, false assumptions, and unnecessary distance. A man might think your silence means you don't care, when in reality you just wanted him to notice your feelings. But because it was never spoken, he assumes the worst And over time, enough unspoken words can convince two people that they've grown apart when really they just stopped talking. Love is fragile without communication. It doesn't matter how strong the attraction is or how good the memories are. If two people stop talking, the connection weakens. Words are the glue that hold love together. They provide direction, comfort, and reassurance. Silence removes that glue and leaves cracks where doubt can slip in. At the end of the day, silence doesn't protect love. It suffocates it. Relationships thrive when both people feel heard, understood, and valued. And that only happens when words are spoken with honesty and care. If something is wrong, say it. If something is bothering you, express it. If you need something, ask for it. Communication might be hard in the moment, but it's the only path to lasting connection. Silence might feel powerful, but it kills the very thing you're trying to say. Real tests come from life, not games. And this is something many people overlook when they try to test their partner through little tricks or manipulations. A strong relationship doesn't need to be built on setups, traps, or staged scenarios. It will be tested naturally by the challenges life throws your way. Real love doesn't need fake exams because life itself will deliver enough trials to show who is truly by your side. When people play games to test love, they often believe they're protecting themselves. They want to know if their partner will stay loyal, if they will fight for them, or if they truly care. But games only create temporary reactions, not lasting proof. A man getting jealous, blowing up your phone, or rushing to apologize during a stage test doesn't reveal his heart. It only reveals that he doesn't want to lose you in that moment. The true test isn't in how someone reacts to a game you created. It's in how they respond when real life gets difficult. Life's tests are unavoidable. There will be financial struggles, family problems, health issues, disappointments, and setbacks. These are the storms that reveal the depth of a person's love and loyalty. When money gets tight, does he stand firm and look for solutions with you, or does he run? When disagreements arise, does he shut down and disappear, or does he fight to keep communication alive? When life feels overwhelming, does he lean into the relationship or drift away? These are the real tests, and they can't be faked. Games, on the other hand, waste time and energy. They create unnecessary drama and distract from the real work of building a partnership. If you spend your time setting up traps to see if someone loves you, you'll miss the genuine opportunities where love could have shown itself naturally. Worse yet, the constant testing can push away a good man who feels like no matter what he does, it will never be enough. He came into the relationship to love, not to play defense against endless pop quizzes. The beauty of life's real tests is that they bring clarity. Hardship strips away pretense and reveals character. A man may say all the right things when everything is easy, but how he acts when things are hard will tell you everything you need to know. If he is patient in your weakness, supportive in your struggles, and faithful in your absence, then you've seen the truth of his love. And none of that required you to play games. It required you to simply live life together and let it unfold. Another thing to remember is that real love doesn't just get tested by struggles, but also by success. When opportunities come, when blessings arrive, when doors open, does he celebrate with you or compete with you? Some people can handle storms, but can't handle sunshine. That too is a real test of love. Can you both grow and elevate without jealousy, without insecurity, without drifting apart? These are questions life will answer without you having to set them up artificially. If you trust life, you don't have to create extra tests. Life will check your relationship in ways you never imagined. It will test your patience, your forgiveness, your sacrifice, and your ability to stand united. And while those tests may be uncomfortable, they are valuable because they reveal truth. When you pass them together, your love becomes stronger, deeper, and more unshakable. That's the kind of bond that can't be shaken by petty games or shallow experiments. At the core, games come from fear, but faith and love comes from trust. If you constantly feel the need to test someone, you're saying you don't believe in the relationship. Trust says, I don't need to play games because life itself will show me who you really are. That trust is what gives a relationship stability. Without it, love becomes a cycle of suspicion and drama. With it, love becomes a safe place, strong enough to endure whatever life brings. At the end of the day, real tests come from life, not games. Life will challenge your love enough on its own. You don't need to create extra battles. A lasting relationship is built by facing those real challenges side by side, not by pushing each other into imaginary ones. If you want to know if someone is truly for you, stop testing them with games and watch how they show up when life tests you both. That's where the truth of love is found.